the session, and anytime you can interrupt, you can ask questions, we can keep it super interactive. Or if you want, you can also wait till the end. Absolutely up to you. So first of all, a little introduction about myself. My name is Mareike, and I am the academics lead, the team lead for the academics team in London, overseeing our Western European academics clients. I support with all things passport, Euromonitor, training sessions, data queries, one-on-ones, whatever it might be regarding our research. I'm really happy that we have this session today, and I very much hope it will help you navigate through Passport a bit more efficiently and effectively afterwards. We will also be looking not just at how to search in Passport, introducing Euromonitor, but also a little case study looking into the hotel and tourism sector in Ireland, and look at specifically how would we retrieve useful information for that specific topic. But first of all, a very brief introduction, who we are and how we conduct our research. We, Euromonitor International, we are a market research organization. We have been around for 50 years, since 1972. We've grown organically. We have a presence of in-country analysts in 100 countries globally, and we have offices in 16 countries. Our research analysts, they conduct the research on our various industries that we cover through different methods. They do this locally through desk research, analyzing information from national statistics offices, local press, company financial reports, and they would analyze this in local as well as in the English language. They would conduct store checks in various different stores, and that, of course, differs highly whether they are in Angola, Cambodia, Ireland, or the US. And thirdly, they conduct trade interviews with the whole supply chain. And this allows them to make estimations on market sizes, brand, company shares across all the different research systems that you have access to. You have access to a total of 27, I believe, 27 sectors in your broad academic access. And those sectors are B2C, largely B2C sectors, from appliances like dishwashers or computers, over to drinks like alcoholic drinks, wine, spirits, to soft drinks, coffee within hot drinks. Across also fashion, luxury and fashion, like apparel and footwear, luxury designer wear, for example. A major area that's relevant, of course, for hotel management is our service section. Here you can dive into our travel research. And then lastly, within industries, you can find a B2B section that looks at ingredients. So that would cover, for example, different ingredients used across food, beverage, beauty products in a country, and how much is consumed of very specific ingredients, as well as packaging, looking at packaging trends, what materials are used across different products and different sectors. So here you find all the different B2C and B2B sectors that we cover in our academic access, and you can always retrieve data sets, so raw data and time series, as well as analysis, briefings, country reports, opinion pieces. You have access to up to 100 countries, and everything is standardized, so you can always easily compare apples with apples. Now, another major area in Passport is economies, where we compile all of our data with regards to the macroeconomy. For example, in economy, finance, and trade, you can explore data on inflation, real GDP growth. In commodities, you can retrieve info on commodity prices. You can understand agricultural yields, pollution, waste management of a country, etc. Business dynamics is a major area to analyze operating environments, VAT, the labor market, workforce, education sector, and there are thousands of indicators that you can explore in our statistics view, but also again country reports. And here that would be for up to 210 countries, and everything's standardized again, just like within industries. A third major area is consumers. Consumer is a very popular research section, especially at business schools, because here you can learn everything about consumers globally. Again, up to 210 countries can be retrieved depending on which area you are in. You can dive into income and expenditure in a country. You can learn which types of household sizes are increasing or decreasing. For example, single households, you can assess whether there is an increase in single households across different regions. Households with children, with how many children, again, thousands of indicators. Lifestyles is a unique section because here you can dive into also our consumer survey that covers all areas of life. And we have further analyzed the raw data from our surveys and produced various consumer reports, from megatrend reports to consumer profiles, which are completely new, and they've just been uploaded, those very new country briefings, in the last few weeks. A fourth major section in Passport is channels. Channels summarizes our data on e-commerce, offline and online retailing. You can analyze digital consumer, how ready a country is with regards to digitalization. There's again a lot of raw data, the statistics data sets, as well as briefings and country reports. And lastly, in terms of summary of the research systems, we also have a free sustainability page. We have a module on just sustainability that's not currently available, but you still have a snapshot of our sustainability research, what we do with regards to that topic when you jump into that section. And it features some broader articles, some very brief case studies of how we've helped our corporate clients, for example, with regards to sustainability questions. And here you find access to some free articles that can also be found on our blog related to sustainability. For example, when speaking about travel and hotel management, here is one article about a more durable tourism model, building back better in Europe. So that might be an interesting one if you are studying tourism or hotel management. Now, let me go back to the main landing page. A lot of you might have the question, how do I best search in this rather complex database that holds so much data? What are the best ways? So I'm going to show you three major ways, but there is one that I recommend for all of you to always use. Of course, you have the very first way of searching when you jump into Passport, which is the keyword search. Most people would first dive into that one. It searches through all of Passport, but it's not a very systematic way, I would say. So if we, for example, type in snacks and then a specific country like Ireland, you can see that this gives us the various data type results, from statistics that you could dive into to analysis, and view all results will give you more reports related to that search. And what's relatively new as well is that you can now access our visual tools, which give you top level trends, where you can visualize all the countries we cover for a specific topic. If I do another example of tourism, you can see that we get various different reports, data types, and again, we get a travel survey as well as a travel dashboard, which would show you all countries that we cover within the travel industry. This is a very easy way to retrieve content quickly. It's useful or it's a efficient way to use if you already know exactly which type of report you want to access. So that's what you can use if you know exactly what you're looking for, and if it's maybe one specific content piece you can access through keyword search. Now, another way people use Passport to search is by going into these individual home pages. If we make the example of services and travel, for example, here on this page, you can retrieve everything related to travel, from tourism, data and analysis, to hotel information, lodging information, airlines. So on this page, you can retrieve and explore analysis, where you can choose a specific type of analysis, like a briefing, country report, global company profile, specify the category, whether that's airline, tourism flows, or lodging, for example, and then a geography. So you could retrieve individual reports through here. Again, it works the same way for exploring statistics. You can choose a category that's contained within travel, from in-destination spending, lodging, airlines, and then simply choose again the geography statistics to retrieve that one specific one. It's also an area where you can find latest reports, so latest content that was just recently published in Passport regarding, in this case, specifically travel. So if you want to stay up to date on what we publish regarding a specific section, you can go into latest reports, click view all reports, and you can dive through the various country reports, the various global briefings that could be relevant, global company profiles with regards to the travel industry. The section is also helpful if you want to look at frequently asked questions, because you might yourself have one of those questions. So here we have questions related specifically to travel. But there are more frequently asked questions listed within our help section at the very top. So within help guide and videos, you can jump into help videos, into our FAQ section, into the definition section for all categories in Passport if you want to know what is covered in hotels, what is covered in lodging, what covers airlines. So that can be found here as well. Now, this is a second way of searching, but it would limit you to purely travel. So it also would not necessarily be efficient in case you want to retrieve several reports, several data sets, in case you want to compare countries, in case you want to retrieve indicators from various different sections in Passport, not just travel. This will be not that efficient. There is a third way that is the most efficient and systematic way of searching in Passport, and that's the Search All Categories tab. And that tab, because it's so important, sits nearly everywhere in Passport, always on the right-hand side. If I go to the main landing page, you can also find it on the right-hand side. And what's really useful about this is you get an overview. It gives you the search tree. It gives you an overview of every single category that we cover across the different industry, economy, consumer topics. You can open up this view and then click industries, but you can also click economies, consumers, channels. It brings you to the exact same overview. And no matter where you access this search tree in Passport, it gives you the same result. Now let's jump into it. I just click on industries, and now it opens up all the different research sections in Passport. You can see industries, economies, consumers, channels. That brings me already to our case study. If we want to, for example, if we want to analyze the hotel sector and tourism sector in Ireland, what we could do here is simply press plus, scroll down. We could also use this as a browser to type in a specific term and look through Passport where we can find this. But we can also use this to browse through all the different research sections. And here we have travel within services. If I click plus, it will give me the breakdown of the different areas covered within travel. You can see we have tourism flows available, where you can go into inbound arrivals if you'd like to understand who's traveling to Ireland, domestic tourism, outbound departure, and the plus sign gives you more details. this way of searching also allows you to click on I on the right-hand side in order to give you the definition of what does this refer to, what does inbound arrivals refer to, how do we count inbound arrivals, how do we measure it. And what I recommend you doing is, if you are interested in inbound arrivals, I highly recommend always clicking the top level categories as well, because that will give you more results. Because it might be that we do not have a report on inbound arrivals. We have the statistics, but we might not have a specific country report on inbound arrivals. Instead, we would have a report on tourism flows, and we would have a report on travel. And all of these could be quite useful for anyone studying inbound, assessing inbound arrivals in a specific country. So I always recommend select all the top level categories as well of that specific indicator that you're interested in. As you can see, there are further interesting categories if you want to study the, for example, the hotel sector. We have lodging, and again, I recommend you can select hotels, but then I'd also recommend selecting lodging, because we have a report on lodging, but we don't have a report on hotels, but rather statistics. So this is where you can explore interesting data, and you can then, you could combine this, but for the purposes of this case study, I am just continuing with these categories, but I just wanted to show you what else is available. So you could dive into economy, finance, and trade if you wanted to analyze the macro environment. And again, I would recommend selecting subcategories as well as the top levels, because we do have country reports for economy, finance, and trade, business dynamics, but we wouldn't have a specific report on GDP. That is a sub-level of the whole sector. So here you could explore all the different areas, and the plus sign gives you all the details of categories we cover. So I just recommend you exploring this specific section. Now, in order for us to be able to move to the next level in the search, we can click select geographies. We've selected 5 categories. Now we can go into geographies, and here we could select the whole world, but that might be slightly overwhelming when we then later look at the data. So what you can do is select a specific country. Here we have Ireland, and we could compare Ireland with another country, for example, the United Kingdom. Or you can also look at aggregate data for Western Europe. If you click here, or if you press world, it will give you the whole world aggregated. So it's not that it would select every country, it would give you everything aggregated. There's also pre-selected geography lists. So instead of you clicking on all the relevant countries, you could go into G7, G20, etc., and it would pull the countries up here in the selection. Now we press search, and now what we're getting is interesting data sets related to our search. But also in addition to that, we are getting analysis as well as dashboards. So this is why searching through the search categories is really useful, because you don't have to retrieve individual reports or individual statistics. You have it all in one place. Now let's look at the statistics. First of all, here you can see we're getting market sizes, so the actual sales through hotels. We are looking at company shares, who are the leading companies and brands in Ireland and the UK. We are looking at brand shares, so you can per company break this down into specific brands to look at who's leading. And much more, even inbound arrivals by city, internet transactions, key performance indicators. So there's a lot to dive into. Let me jump into the first statistic, market sizes, and just highlight to you how you can navigate these. What we're looking at here is, well, first of all, we're looking at the geographies Ireland and the UK. We're looking at travel, which means the total travel sector, including all the sub-sectors that were listed in travel. So not just lodging, but airlines, inbound arrival, spending, etc. We look at the inbound arrivals, and that looks at euro millions spent by those inbound arrivals, at lodging, meaning all the different lodging facilities, from hotels to, well, that would be, of course, well, to others, to rentals, etc. And the same goes for the UK. There are very important sections at the top in Passport. Change data types would allow you to not only look at retail value in terms of retail sales price, but you can also look at sites and outlets. So how many sites are there? Internet transaction value, the number of room nights spent per year, the number of trips, number of rooms, offline value in retail sales price. So there are many, many different options of how to look at the data. You can also convert the data into a specific currency that's available. You can immediately calculate year-on-year growth instead of having it to do yourself. You can look at per capita, current constant, so including, excluding inflation. Many, many options are available here. There's also options to change the time frame for certain categories. You can go back to 2009 and look at how has this changed, how have inbound arrival changed, and even look at forecasts for the next years, and then simply press apply and it will automatically change the data set for you. It's always important to look at what are we actually looking at. So here, these numbers refer to euro millions when we are analyzing Ireland. And when it comes to UK, we are looking at GBP. So what we could do is convert the data into euros, for example, if we wanted to directly compare. You can easily extract data sets through export current data set. That would give you exactly what we're looking at. If you're extracting export full data set, it will give you a huge data set full with all the different currencies, all the different data types available, all the different conversions. So it might not be exactly what you're looking for. It might be a very large data set of everything that's sort of also hidden behind those different tabs at the top. So I always recommend export current data set. If you have questions about definitions and calculation variables, you can quickly jump into these through each data set. And we have also all the sources available at the end. So you can click on travel in order to retrieve the sources that we've used for Ireland and for the UK. You might be wondering, what are these different colorful icons here on the left-hand side? So what those colorful icons refer to is that there are more data types available for that category. So if we're looking at lodging, what we can do is, and same goes for hotels, we can check what are the company shares. So not just in total, what's the market size, but also the company shares, the brand shares as well. We can look at internet transactions and another option of key performance indicator. And what we see for lodging as well is that there is a country report available giving us the story behind the data, the qualitative insights. Let's make an example. If we wanted to know the company shares, we can simply click on that colorful icon and it will give us the overview. We could have also accessed that statistics on the results page after we've done the search, but there are always many different ways of how to access a specific statistic. And here you can see for Ireland, who are the competitors within hotels within that category. We can see the Dalata Hotel Group is leading. It's a leader with 7.5% market share. We can, again, instead of looking at the percentage breakdown, we can convert the data and look, for example, at the actuals. So if we click on that, it's always good to check what else there is available, the actual retail value, so that changes the view. And instead of giving us the percentage of the market share, we are looking at the actuals in euro millions. So we're looking at 149 million in sales for the leader in the market. And if there are no values for certain years, for certain companies, there could be several reasons why. It's simply because they might have had a market share, maybe if we go back in time, of a significant value and have dropped in share, or maybe they have been bought up by another company, maybe there's been a merger and acquisition. So I would always recommend, if you have a question about why don't we see values for certain year, why that is the case, is that because that company has only achieved a certain market share in a certain year, or has there been a merger with another company? Has the company changed its name? There might be many reasons why. So for this, our research analyst team would be able to help. And again, you can easily retrieve this in Excel. Are there any questions with regards to the statistics before I move on to our analysis? Or you could, of course, also ask your questions at the end, but happy for you to interrupt me. Now, if we jump to analysis, here is where you can find further details. Within statistics, you saw that the level of detail wasn't as granular. You were able to look at lodging, retail sales for Ireland, at inbound arrivals, but you couldn't break this down further into from which countries do people come from, or which types of hotels are most successful in Ireland? What's the state of the industry? So where you can find detailed information about that is within our country reports. For example, if we go into the country report for Ireland, specifically tourism flows, let's look into that. And that's a very up-to-date report. It was published on the 4th of September this year. So you have the most up-to-date content available. This report looks specifically into what's happening regarding tourism in Ireland. And of course, you can retrieve this report for more than 50 countries globally. You can learn about that there has been a rebound in tourism since the pandemic, but there are still many, many obstacles. So you learn about key developments in 2023. You can learn about prospects and opportunities. This also covers if there's relevance with regards to sustainability, we would cover this section. So in this case, we talk about sustainable travel. A lot of this information comes from our trade interviews that we conduct with the supply chain, with major players in the market. We would discuss anything major when it comes to policies, if that is relevant in a specific country and industry, like in this case. And then if you scroll down, you get those detailed statistics, those breakdowns of where do people travel from to Ireland. You can see the inbound arrivals by country, the number of trips. We can clearly see trips from the UK are strongest, unsurprisingly, followed by the US, Germany, France, Spain. We can see how this has changed since 2018, and you have the latest 2023 data available. So what is often as a case study for tourism boards would be, or students taking on the position of tourism boards, they would look at which countries to target in terms of marketing their country. So here they could find out where do we get most travel from. We can see there has been an increase in travel in arrivals from Italy, for example, from since 2018, as well as from Spain, we've seen an increase. So one could then select a few of those countries, or maybe even focus on countries where there is still limited travel to Ireland, and we could then analyze those countries in depth by retrieving useful information from consumers about this country, or from our macroeconomic sections to understand the environment in those specific countries where we'd like to attract tourists from, if we take on the position of a tourism board. But as you can see, there is so much more content available within the reports that you might not be able to see within the statistics view. So I always recommend retrieving those reports. Now, if I go back to the results page, and of course these reports can be downloaded into PDF, and distribute it among students, lecturers at your universities. What you can also do is within the lodging report, you get the breakdown. And again, this is also this has been recently been published on the 5th of September. Here you can in detail analyze which hotel types are most successful when it comes to retail sales. We learn about that more affordable lodging options are on the rise. Oh, sorry, I'm now in the UK report. Apologies. Let me go back to and see where we have the Ireland report. Here you can quickly filter by different areas. So we can simply scroll down again, and we have lodging in Ireland. So here, if we scroll down, we learn about, well, policies that have affected the hotel sector in Ireland. We learn that a lot of the sector has been we learned that almost 20% of hotels and hostels in Ireland have been contracted by the government to meet humanitarian needs for refugees, which has put a lot of pressure on the supply chain. There's a lot of demand, but not a lot on offer when it comes to lodging in Ireland. So there's huge potential for investment regarding lodging. So a lot can be analyzed in these reports. And when I scroll down, you can see we have not just the breakdown of lodging in hotels, short-term rentals, and other lodging to see developments, but we can also break hotels further down into luxury hotels, upscale, budget, etc. So again, I recommend looking at the details of the report. And on the left-hand side, what you can do is you can directly go back to the statistics. You can look at the table of content, and here on the left-hand side, you can download this report. Now, what might be useful, since we have already looked at tourism flows, and we saw that the US is a big market. We saw Italy as well, Spain. So if we now wanted to continue this case study to understand who are the tourists and what are their preferences, what are consumer preferences in those countries, what we could now do is, since we have completed our search in the search all categories area, we can now also, in addition to that, jump into specific reports or into specifically the consumer section and retrieve consumer insights for our target markets. So for example, for the US, if we wanted to learn about consumer preferences, what are trends there, which generations are mostly interested in travel and what type of travel, what sort of where do they shop? Where do they retrieve information from? Do they use, mobile phones? Where do they get recommendations from? All of that can be found within the lifestyle section, where we cover 40 of the major countries like US, Italy. So you can either go into the survey directly through here. I've already opened the survey for you. So what the survey allows us to do is explore different surveys within it. So we can look into, for example, leisure and recreation, into travel preferences, and then analyze those countries from where travelers are coming from that come into Ireland. So we can look at travel destination features these travelers are looking for. So what appeals to them? And here, if we press apply, we get the list of all countries we cover within our consumer survey. We can analyze a specific country, segment that specific country into, for example, different age groups to see, is there a specific age group that focuses on, for example, nature and outdoor activities. So you can hover over different questions we've asked consumers in those countries, and also look specifically at a country, at gender, at an income band. So here we have the various questions for our travel survey. And you can see, for example, what travel destination features are most important when planning future vacations, And here the first one that pops up is relaxation, but you can see we've asked various questions, and on the right-hand side, you see the results. Also over different years, you can analyze if people have changed in terms of their views on what they're looking for, but you could also conduct a custom comparison where you can choose a specific country, also specifically by gender as well as age group, to see how responses differ depending on specific country segmentations for the US or Italy, Spain. But of course, we also have detailed summaries of our survey findings, and they can also be found within this lifestyle section. You can find them here either at the very bottom in the latest report section, or you can retrieve our reports, the country reports for a specific country if you choose the Explore Analysis section. The reason why I've jumped into here specifically into lifestyles is because lifestyle is the only section, or is the one only section that is not visible within the search tree. Although I always recommend using the search tree that we jumped in earlier, that gives you all the categories across passport. When it comes to lifestyles and survey findings, you would have to specifically go into consumers and then lifestyles to retrieve that content, because it's shown differently to all the other data for which you get always raw data plus analysis. But within the consumer lifestyle section, you get specifically the lifestyle survey dashboard and these various country reports focusing on consumer behavior, interest, the consumer landscape, and mega trends that one might want to focus on if they want to, for example, run a marketing plan, a specific analysis of the consumer landscape in a country. So let me just summarize what we did in order to retrieve interesting information for our case study that looked at the hotel and tourism sector in Ireland, and also at the specific countries from which inbound tourism is coming from. What I always recommend is going into our search all categories tab, because this is where we have all the different categories listed across the different research systems from industries, economies, consumers. You can select all different types of categories. Then on the next page, select the countries you want to analyze and compare, to then retrieve the statistics as well as analysis. But a section that's not included within search all categories that you would have to retrieve separately, that can be really useful for any market analysis, is our lifestyle section. So here you can jump into the different reports. If you already know that you want the consumer profile report, you know the name of the consumer profile report, you know the megatrend report, then of course you could also easily access these reports through the keyword search, megatrend, USA, and you could directly jump into it through here as well. There is one other, something else I forgot to highlight, is if you wanted to look at more global briefings, if you wanted to, for example, if you conduct a project on Ireland and understanding consumers traveling to Ireland and their preferences, how to target them. You might still be interested in global briefings, understanding the travel industry more generally, what are trends globally. And the place to find those global briefings would be within that specific travel homepage, where I mentioned earlier is where you can find all the different content that we publish on the travel industry. So within either latest reports, you could dive into view all reports and then segment by a briefing or country report. You could simply explore, is there anything that's more on a global level that could still be useful for an analysis. We can go into briefings, and this shows us if there's anything else that could be relevant, like our quarterly published global inflation tracker, for example. Or there's also a quarterly statement that you receive quarterly, of course, from our head of research of the travel industry, Caroline Bremner, who's also frequently speaking at conferences globally, at travel conferences. So all these global briefings might also be useful on sustainable travel, etc. So I recommend exploring these individual homepages as well at the end of your search. And lastly, before I open up the floor for questions, you have the help section at the very top. So if you forgot everything that we covered today, of course, we have the recording, but still, if you want to have a very short intro, you can go into help guide and videos where you find brief 3-minute videos on how to get started in Passport, how to work with statistics, how to export, how to use a dashboard. You can look into the methodologies in detail, our definition section, giving you the definitions of the very different categories. So on the left-hand side, you could dive into travel at the very bottom and simply retrieve the different definitions that you might want to look at, and much more, of course. So that was all from my side. Now I would say if anyone has a specific question, please let me know, or comment. If anything was unclear, please let me know. Yes, please, Gwen.
Thanks, Marika. That was really useful. Can I just ask? I have two questions actually.
Yes.
So if you do a search through the searching all categories tree, like you mentioned, and you've drilled down through consumer travel, and then you're selecting 2 or 3 geographies to compare. Um, the analysis that you get from that then does that sort of just pull out the appropriate sections of those country profiles? Like you would never get an analysis of Ireland and the UK together. You get the two
Mhm.
separate. Is that would that be correct?
Yes, that is correct. So you would get it for whichever country you have chosen, for which we have a report
Yeah,
available. So it couldn't be, no, it couldn't be combined. That would be really nice, but it couldn't be
would
combined.
be
Yeah.
really nice.
But it is
Um,
comparable. It is all
Yeah,
comparable and
yeah, because
standardized.
they're written in the same way. And so those analysis reports, it's country profiles and megatrends, is that it? Or is there another type of report?
Really good question. So we have lots of different, so we call them country reports, but of course these country reports, we have the country reports for all the different industries. So, for example, wine in Ireland, beer in the US, beauty and personal care in Cambodia. So, for the different industry categories, for most of the top line ones, you get country reports in addition to the statistics. But then we have within economies, we have also lots of country reports. We have a country report on economy, finance, and trade. We have a country report, like a pest analysis would be country report, which of course is something that's also really, really relevant at universities and business schools. So you can see within economy, finance, and trade, we have various pest analyses just recently added. They are available for more than 100 countries. Business dynamics country reports. So you would have business dynamics in Ireland, business dynamics in Angola, in addition to the raw data. And if you select that, either through here, you could access it through the homepage. If you know, okay, I just want business dynamics in a specific country, you could do that, retrieve it like this. You could type it in the keyword search, or you would have also received the country report result if you had ticked business dynamics within the search or categories overview. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have lots of different country reports from across the industries, the macro topics, consumers. You get a population report, population in X report. You get these mega trend reports per country, um, consumer behavior reports. Um, so we have the country reports, we have the global briefings, such as global travel statement or global economy or global inflation or strategic um, retail retailer strategies, which would be global. There are lots of global briefings. And then, of course, we have company profiles as well, global company profiles and local company profiles. So there are many different types of reports available in Passport. But the major ones are, of course, the country reports, which are always updated the country reports are updated always on an annual basis. Whereas the global briefings would be depending on relevance. So some are quarterly, others are, if there is now if we see relevance in publishing a report on plant-based eating, which would be a global briefing, then we would publish that, write it and publish it. But that depends on what's relevant. Any other question?
Any other questions from anybody? Yes. I just had one last question, but if
Yes.
anybody else has any questions, that's absolutely fine. But just the channels section, just to find out a little bit more about that. You were saying that it's internet transactions, is that it? That's what digital consumers.
Let me dive into it. Very good question. So the easiest way to sort of see quickly what is actually covered is by going again into the search tree. And what it shows you is for digital consumer, we are looking, so digital consumer and retail slightly overlap when it comes to retail e-commerce, but digital consumer is broader than so retail purely focuses on retail, so retail e-commerce or retail offline, such as supermarkets, etc. Whereas digital consumer is a bit more broad. It also can give you data on streaming services, e-commerce, which is a relatively new indicator we've added. Also, how much is spent on mobility, for example, mobility e-commerce, and you could quickly dive into the I for definition, so on for information, not definition, information, online purchases of transportation and mobility related products, and it specifies what it includes, what it excludes. So anything purchases online for all these different sections, such as also travel e-commerce. So you would be able to look at it, travel e-commerce by type. It allows you to analyze for a specific country the different, basically how strong e-commerce is already, and then by type, by which type of goods and services. So that's digital. Digital consumer breaks it down into those different goods and services, whereas retail just focuses on retail. So if I open this up, you can look at sales. So that would be then total sales of, let's say, supermarkets in Ireland. Whereas if you go into a different industry, like if you go into alcoholic drinks, you could see how much is sold of alcoholic drinks in a market. But that would then look at all channels, not just supermarkets. So here at the top, if we go into industries, alcoholic drinks, you would see the sales of that product across all channels. Whereas retail allows you to look at all sales through specific retail sites like supermarkets, like discounters, and then also see the company shares of discounters. But it wouldn't be broken down by a product here. It would be all their sales and how they're performing. And here again, you can also look at it at the same time. You can look at the online players, so retail e-commerce. You could see how much is sold by product type through e-commerce in a country, and then further break it down by e-commerce players. So what are the sales of marketplace e-commerce? What is, for example, eBay would be within marketplace e-commerce. What are their sales? What are the company shares? Does that make sense more or less? It's a lot.
Yeah, it
It's a
does. Yeah,
lot.
there's a huge amount of data here to have a look at. All right.
And we've just
Just
recently added a lot of further categories. A few months ago, they expanded the retail e-commerce section because of the need from clients to see more details, which was previously difficult to break down, but they have expanded the research to give further breakdowns of e-commerce sales.
So the sort of the expansion of categories is to do with feedback, is it, from, I presume, from industry rather than from
So
university subscribers?
it's hard. It's basically need we get from engaging with our clients globally. Of course, we have so many academic clients, more than 1,000 unis, but also corporate clients. So when it comes to e-commerce, I can only speculate that that there must have been so much need from corporate clients, which of course is then always then linked also to academics, that they also need much more, whatever the corporate clients need, because it's relevant. Lots of business students would also, for example, have that need.
This is terrific, and even more terrific that it is recorded, because we can go back over all of these. I still find it quite difficult to sort of navigate, but I'm sure when I look at it a couple of times, and I don't know how other people feel
There are
about that.
so many ways. There are so many ways of searching. And I just always say, if you don't find something, it doesn't mean it's not there. Just if you've tried different ways and you still can't find something, don't think it's definitely not there. Message us. And I double check.
You're okay with individuals
Yes,
messaging.
yes, absolutely. Yes, 100%. I respond to student requests, of
Super,
course. I
super.
receive
That's
that
good to know.
weekly. Yes,
That's good to
yes, no
know.
problem.
Can I check if anybody else has any questions before we wrap this up? I think you've stunned everybody into silence.
Oh, well, I hope it was useful and great. We recorded that so everybody can hopefully go back to that. But yeah, thank you so much. And you can always contact us for one-on-one webinars, group webinars on a specific topic. No problem.
Thank you so much.
Thank
That
you.
was really fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank you, Maria. And I will talk to you soon. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye, Marika. Bye-bye.